millions of viewers have trusted them with the morning news, welcomed them into their homes, and believed they knew who they really were. But behind the calm delivery, behind the polished smiles, there's a story few ever see. And now, at 86, Tom Brokaw is finally opening up about Savannah Guthrie. And what he reveals isn't what most people expected. Honestly, this isn't just about television. It's about legacy, about pressure, and about what it really means to carry the weight of trust in front of millions. Long before the bright lights of the studio, Tom Brokaw's journey began far from the world of national headlines. Raised in a modest environment, he built his career step by step, earning respect through discipline, patience, and an unwavering commitment to truth. In many ways, he became the definition of a traditional journalist. Authoritative and deeply trusted. Savannah Guthrie's path, however, was different. She didn't rise through the same era. Her journey blended law, journalism, and modern media. What makes this story different is how these two worlds eventually collided. One shaped by decades of legacy, the other by a rapidly changing industry. Brokaw's breakthrough came during his years as a leading anchor, where his voice became synonymous with credibility. He wasn't just reporting the news, he was shaping how people understood it. Meanwhile, Guthrie rose to prominence as a sharp, composed presence on morning television, eventually becoming a central figure on Today. But here's what most people don't realize. Success in television isn't just about talent. It's about navigating expectations, both seen and unseen. According to those familiar with the industry, the transition between generations of journalists has never been simple. Many believe that figures like Brokaw carried a quiet standard, one that wasn't always spoken, but always felt. And as newer voices like Guthrie stepped into larger roles, that invisible pressure only grew stronger. It was never about conflict, not directly, but rather about contrast. Different styles, different eras, different definitions of what journalism should be. There were moments that quietly shaped this dynamic. One was the evolution of live television itself, faster, more reactive, and often more personal. Another came as audiences began expecting not just information, but connection. And Guthrie, in many ways, embodied that shift. Those who have worked behind the scenes remember how carefully every word, every tone, every pause was measured. Because in a space where trust is everything, even the smallest detail can define perception. Then came the quieter phase, not silence in the traditional sense, but a shift, a step back. Brokaw, having spent decades at the center of journalism, began reflecting more than speaking. And during that time, many believe he observed how the industry and those within it were changing. Honestly, this is where the story becomes more human, because stepping away from something you helped define isn't easy. And yet, when Brokaw finally spoke about Guthrie, it wasn't criticism that stood out. It was understanding, a recognition that journalism, like everything else, evolves, that each generation carries the responsibility in its own way. In many ways, it wasn't about comparison, it was about continuity. Today, Savannah Guthrie remains a central figure in modern broadcasting, and Brokaw's legacy continues to echo through every newsroom that values credibility over noise. Their connection, subtle, indirect, yet meaningful, represents something larger than either of them. It represents change, because in the end, influence doesn't always come from what's said out loud. Sometimes it's found in what's passed on quietly. And honestly, that might be the most powerful legacy of all.